Yeah. Called to order at 6 o'clock.
Just have one green.
Hey, first on the agenda is to swear in Mr. Vern Thurl. Where do we do that, Kim? Just,
I would just do it on the corner there,
Okay.
as you both stand.
I'll do that. Sure.
yeah, we'll do the United Church. Just get her involved with the picture. All right, we should hand out. I, Vern Donald Thurl,
I, Vernon Donald Thurl,
swear that I will
swear that I will
diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability,
diligently, faithfully, and do the best of my ability,
execute according to the law of the office
execute accordingly to the law of the office
of counselor for the town of Canada.
of counselor of the town of Han.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Perfect, congratulations. Picture now.
Welcome
She
aboard.
took one when you were doing it.
You gotta tell me when you're doing that stuff.
It's better not to know.
Welcome aboard, Vern.
We'll see.
Yeah, no way to come down.
So just, yeah, just so everybody knows, so Vern is now officially counselor for the town of Hannah, and we've held off on any committees appointments until we have our org meeting at our October meeting. So at that point, Vern will get some additional duties.
Perfect. Well, good. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
welcome for
I
sure.
need the seniors one because I want to try to get a room right away.
Get an inside track on the road. Okay, if we can get an adoption of the agenda. Counselor Kroll, all in favor? Carried. Second, I did get my mouse working. No adoption agenda done, delegations. Harrison, do you want to speak?
So,
No. Sure. Okay. Public presentation,
Unless
it's getting
you'd like to make a
easier.
presentation, no, not tonight? Okay,
You sure?
yeah.
Vern said you'd have something for us, so.
Yeah, her and Kate will-
Adoption of the minutes from the. Second here. There. Adoption of the minutes for the regular meeting of council, August 9th, 2022, be adopted as presented. Councilor Olson, all in favor? That the minutes of the information meeting held on August 31st, 2022, be adopted as presented. Motion, Councilor Warwick. All in favor? Carried. Accounts payable, has everyone had a chance to look through it? If you figure it out, Vern, let me know, because it's still pretty overwhelming for me some days.
That's what I used to ask a lot of questions.
And you can.
Well, you can't, if there's something that doesn't look, or you don't understand, just ask. I mean, that's the best part about this is we get to, see you later, buddy.
Come again.
And
Oh, his cookies and popper in the, on the far side.
Councilor Thorough, if you have any questions too at any time and you don't necessarily want to raise them in public, certainly you can come ask me if and I'll do my best to answer them.
Yeah, I'm getting better at these figures, but there's some that always jump out like, what the heck's going on, you know?
Well, there's some that you just gotta,
Yeah.
But we're on accounts payable right now.
Yeah,
So I have a couple questions.
Councilor Bowden.
And I always have an issue with this too. Number 001340, the brick for fridge and freezer. I'm assuming that's for the airport?
Fire department.
Ah. Fire department, okay. And, 042377 Skyline Furniture is, I'm assuming that's a home business?
No, it's a property owner,
Oh, okay,
owned property in town, and again, it's one of those tax refunds, so
Okay.
they must have paid it twice.
well, that's what I meant as far as a property owner.
Yeah, it's a property
Yeah,
owner town.
thank you. That's all I had.
Nothing else? Motion to accept the accounts payable listings for general accounts checks. 42343 to 42379 and direct deposit 001338 to 001414 for information. Counselor Bowden, all in favor? Carried. Statement of revenue and expense. Any other questions that jump off the page there? We have one property that's going up for tax. Correct?
No,
No. Okay.
I'll update you in my report.
Okay, sorry, I just popped into my head.
Yeah.
We were at that, so. No questions. Council accept the statement of revenue expense report for August 22. For information, Councilor Kroll. All in favor? And Councilor Thorough, if I miss you, just smack me. You're close enough, you can do that, so,
Don't worry.
okay. Budget overview. Nothing, Councilor Bowden?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment. It's nice to see the negative in the actual, basically the credit coming in the revenue. To show that there is some, positive end of it, of the revenue in excess of some of the expenses at the end of the day. I think Fox Lake was one that I noticed the most, with 89,692 and still going. So I think that's a huge kudos to those that are involved in managing and keeping and the town for the upkeep.
Little bit of that, Councilor Bowden, a little bit of good fortune that we've got all the work in town, so,
Yeah, that's, yeah.
but yeah, it certainly is a benefit to the county.
We actually might make money at Fox Lake this year.
I'm pretty confident we will.
Yeah.
One quick question.
Councilor Olsen?
The wall repair, the curling rink, that one's always intrigued me because it was not sure exactly what's happening. Has it gotten worse?
No, it hasn't gotten worse, but it's one of those things that we don't necessarily know the best answer to fix it. So it's when you're in there, you'll see it's in the men's washroom, so. So it's one that we have to follow up on, but it's one that, I don't know if Kevin's had a chance. I told him to talk to some of our contractors to see if they would recommend anything in terms of making the repair, so.
That's from that leak, is it not?
No, I think it's just from some shifting of the building early on and when it was built.
Okay,
You don't notice it until you look
Look for
closely
it.
at it, but if you look for it, you'll see it. And then it'll be definitely, you'll notice it. So. Yeah, it's one we still have, a capital project we still haven't done, so.
Yep.
Is that structural or is that aesthetics?
It would be more aesthetics. It's been that way for a number of years, so.
Could they just not put a false wall over it to basically
No, I
hide
don't,
it?
no, we can't hide it that easy, so.
okay. Motion from council to accept the budget overview for 2022 for information. Counselor Olson, all in favor? Carried. Senior administrators administrative reports, DAO. Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Mr. Mayor was jumping the gun on the package, but
Sorry.
we did have our tax recovery auction set for yesterday at 2 p.m. And starting in the morning of yesterday, we finally had contact with the owner of the property.
Oh.
Finally reached out to us and contacted, so we did get a significant payment towards the arrears, and the individual signing into a tax payment agreement to be caught up and pay the taxes and next year's taxes within 2 years. So the MGA allows us to do up to 3 years in a tax payment agreement. So there actually was not an auction. We had a couple of gentlemen here for the auction. And we were rushing right at the end, confirming that the payment had come into our bank, and because it was made electronically, and so we delayed the meeting a little bit just to make sure. They had sent us confirmation on their phone, a screenshot on their phone that they'd sent it, but it hadn't actually ended up into our bank, and took a little bit longer, I think, because they were dealing with Bank of Montreal. So Bank of Montreal has to then transfer to the Royal Bank and get it into our system. But the payment was made yesterday, so we didn't have any auction held. So that's good. Signage project, just let you know, as it's in my report, Harvest Sky has entered into the agreement with or accepted the tender from High Signs. And the town amount was $262,227.41 to do all of the signage project work in Hannah. They also were the second lowest in Youngstown, and you have the tender for Youngstown as well. And we didn't choose the low tender just because even though it was less, but their bid wasn't compliant, and the fact they didn't put their bid bond in, said they couldn't put a bid bond in. They didn't have notice, they didn't provide notice of their WCB coverage. And the other thing that High Signs has provided us some value added options to the plan that we're going to move forward with. So the tender called for, basically posts and concrete. They're suggesting screw piles. So we're looking at option. And as well, rather than the wood itself for the posts, they've got a aluminum product that looks like wood that would be the wrap that would save the wood. So they've added that into the project as well. So we did have a kind of a virtual kickoff meeting yesterday. So they will be they've started the project, so they're in basically in their labs and in their fabrication, getting their fabrication designs ready and getting stuff ready to go. So they are hoping to have the project wrapped up in a couple of months, 2-3 months. So hopefully we get a little bit longer fall and make it a little bit easier. But that's moving forward now as well.
And at a Harvest Sky meeting this morning, I don't know if it went over my head or whatever previously, but this money is all being provided by Curry's Can.
Yes.
And so none of it is coming from taxpayers and stuff. So that was a nice clarification for me to hear this morning.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to pass that on so that if anybody else was wondering.
Yeah, well, people are gonna question, $262,000 on signs, but it is federal government money. And it's residual money from the coal transition dollars that Harvest Sky got, that projects where they didn't fully expend what they thought they would, and they've been able to reallocate it. So that's where I think they're looking to reallocate some dollars towards a community kitchen or a commercial kitchen. So there's been some savings there that they're looking to reallocate and get back in. The challenge is those dollars are supposed to be spent and accounted for by the end of March 2023. So, which is fine, but when you're in a construction period, it's not really March 2023. So So that project is moving forward. I would imagine it will be a month or so till you see anything in, a physical thing in town. So, tennis court, we talked a little bit prior to the meeting, so it may be finished. If it's not finished, it's very close to being finished. We did authorize an additional $5,900 on the project to add 2 more pickleball courts, so they can have 6. That was the discussion and we had with the pickleballers. They felt that 6 would be better if we could do 6. I've encouraged them to try and get some tournaments. Even if it's reciprocal with Drum and Three Hills and Stettler, bringing them here, for a day and getting them in town and getting them spending some money. So once this is done, I'm gonna say a prediction, none of us will be dealing with the resurfacing of another tennis court in our tenure here. So I think this one lasted 20, I think it was done, it's 25 years.
Is there a
since it was
guarantee?
last done. There's a warranty, but it won't be obviously for 25 years, but I can't remember if it's 1 or 3 years
Okay.
warranty on the project, so.
Imagine.
The other thing that was exciting was I did get contacted late last week from Palace Airshed Society. So they are have a role to play in monitoring ambient air quality. Originally started in Medicine Hat, Red Cliff. They're expanded to cover the southeastern portion of Alberta. They had indicated Hannah's in their area, but they've never had the resources to be able to put one in Hannah. We would be in the north part of their region. So I said timing was good. We certainly would be very interested in having one here. So we're just working out some of the particulars, and we've been playing telephone tag lately. I'm not sure. She left a message for me to do something to do with the type of power we wanted, and wherever we're tying in, we needed a 100 amp service. So we had talked, and we had talked about a few options just on the phone. She had indicated they will probably send somebody out to kind of do a scouting. Then we had talked about our public workshop. She wasn't necessarily a fan of the public workshop because she wanted to get something that was a little more centrally located in town. So I had mentioned potentially the library and the parking lot in behind there might be a good spot. We will be responsible for obviously the power needed for the trailer, as well as they need to be hooked up to Wi-Fi as well. So that would be our obligation. They would provide the trailer. So it sounds like it's a trailer that's being donated to them from the province. So not sure on a time frame, but I said that was good news, and we were very interested in having one here. So
It's too bad it couldn't be further west.
yeah, we talked about that, but we don't have, again, it would be finding power and finding town property, right? That's why I had suggested the shop. It's our closest place. They're more concerned about putting it in a more of a central area where there's more people who are there. So that's why they were a little more excited with the library location. But, as we move forward, that could change. So we're looking forward to that. And there's a couple pictures they provided me. That's all I have on my report. I did put in the information in your package about the signage tender. I guess on the facility side, since we last met, we believe we're ready for the rodeo from the town's perspective. The dirt's in, everything that we do as part of the contribution is done. I know the rodeo group have been working there, setting up the remaining stuff. The Lions Hall, we removed 14. There was, I don't know if you remember the Lions Hall, but it had many lights in the Lions Hall. So we've changed the lights out to LED lights, and doing that, we removed half of them. So hopefully you see some savings there. Swimming pool, we closed on the 28th, had our dog party on the 29th, which went over very well. Parks were pretty much wrapped up. We still have Pam, Lynn, and Sheldon are still working. I know Ed started, Falls here, Ed started blowing out irrigation lines today. So we're working through that. Kevin has attached for your information, and we will certainly discuss it more in budget, but Kevin's been talking with a gentleman who sells artificial turf and was wants to renovate in front of the office here. But when he showed me the quote, I didn't have a lot of confidence that we would move forward with it. But we have trouble keeping the water or keeping the grass in good shape. And I know John, when John likes the landscape, it's not the best landscape in front for pedestrians. So Kevin wanted you to see that. I was gonna hide it till budget, but because it's a scary price.
It'd be nice to see a comparison as well as to what it would cost just for a basic. Get rid of all of that and just put a grass in, or
Yeah, it's just
put shale or.
Yeah, the
something.
grass just doesn't, a lot of it's decent. The grass just doesn't catch very well, and it gets salt and stuff from the winter, and
I need to amortize this over 150 years. It'll be there.
well, part of it is Mr. Fortna too, right? So, and so when I saw Mr. Fortna was looking at it, and I clicked on the link to the company just to see what, and I'm like, okay, what do I have for yard? Oh, I can't afford this.
A lot of the people that were interested.
I think the cost per square foot shut a lot of people down, so, but Jeff tells me that he's going forward regardless.
Yeah.
So on Michelle's report, just some highlights, Epic Adventures, first time we've had Epic Adventures since a full program since COVID, went very well. Again, if you look at our statement of revenue expense on our budget, we certainly exceeded our budget expectations there as well. Music in the Park wrapped up, fall registration fair. I wasn't there, but there's 24 organizations there, kids and adults and talking about their programs, so it went well. Drive Happiness is still slow. The challenge is we have 3 volunteer drivers. We've done a trip. We did do a trip to Stettler. But a lot of the requests that have been coming through for Drive Happiness, if not all of the requests, have been for long trips to Calgary. And our drivers aren't comfortable driving to Calgary or weren't comfortable committing that time. So they haven't been accepted. So we're still working on that. We are working on finalizing our free community concert on the 21st. So we're working through that process. And I think that's it from that side, unless there's any question. Oh, the other thing I just wanted to mention, and I know some of you are aware, I got an email this afternoon from Heather Kipling, who is the communications director for Central Zone AHS, and she has basically said that it's become necessary to temporarily close some additional beds at the site, and I didn't know how many. Councillor Olson has confirmed 5, because I think we were at 10, right? Yeah, 10 to 5, due to new staffing absences, which compound the challenges that they spoke to council about at the end of August. They originally thought it looked like these beds would be closed for a few days while they were securing contract nursing support, but the closure will now be longer. And she didn't give me a date or a time, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, a month. I did phone her but she didn't, I just left her a message, so I just wanted to inform you, if you hear that on the street, we just got this email this afternoon, so.
Yeah, when we're coming back from that.
So it's not, not good. Not good news, but, we'll see what happens. I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that, so versus hearing it out on the street, so. Although Counselor Olson beat me to it, he already heard it, so. So any questions? We are still working with the Ag Society. Kevin was on holidays, he's back. I haven't had a chance to see him today, but where they're at in terms of, they've committed to installing it. But when they want to start and get going, but the target still would be October 1st to have their icing in Delia, and our minor hockey figure skaters booking their regular schedule there for the month of October, so.
Mr. Neal, do you know who's going to be heading up that adult community choir? Is that,
I don't know, there is a new resident to town who has some musical background, and she's reached out to us to see if, like, she's interested in leading it, so I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I know it's a new resident to town, so.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Bowden.
I was just wondering, have you heard anything about Fox Lake and Helmer Dam as far as the fishing status and?
Well, there is no fishing status. We've started, I think this is
that
year.
study? Yeah.
Well, yeah, we didn't move forward with the second part of the study because we didn't get the grant dollars to move forward with the second half. I don't know if we needed to. The first study was pretty clear. So we have started putting money aside. I think 22 is year 2 into reserve, so that if we can find a good solution, good long-term solution, that we've got some dollars set aside that we can address it. So, until, and I know I had been positive that maybe we could get some water through Henry Kruger through there, but I know that Garth has some concerns about using that pipeline and putting pressure on some of the pipes there to run that much water into that Helmer but I think we need a different source of water and versus the runoff. So for long term. And I think, as you can see, we have no runoff.
Yeah.
CN, Helmer, Fox Lake are all down significantly. And I am pessimistic. I told Mr. Olson the other day, I hope our public works guys spend the whole winter in their graders and trucks moving snow, because he didn't like that idea, but I said that would be good, because we definitely need some significant moisture to start to replenish any of that water. So
Thank you. I had forgotten.
yeah, no,
stuff
that's
going on
that's
and-
good.
yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, there's still lots of concern about Helmer Dam.
Yes.
You know, that's the big thing. I mean,
Yeah.
There definitely is people in the community who would like to see that as a fishing amenity. No doubt about it. Yeah.
Would it be possible to have a in-town fishing hole? I don't know where you put it, but
Yeah, I don't know how, I'm not a fisherman,
yeah, I
so
just-
I'm not sure how big of a space you would need and what it would require. I know, the only other places I know we have ponds on are obviously the golf course. But I can't think right off the top of my head where we'd have to man-made one. But anything's possible.
yeah, just with the complexity of Helmer Dam. One of the ratepayer actually stopped in and asked me if that was a viable option, and I said, well, I can't give you a yes or a no, but it's a thought process that can definitely be looked at, so.
I know a number of farmers have dugouts that they do stock, and they're not very big.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that would be sufficient for our ratepayers to go around a place the size of this room and fish, but it's an
Mosquitoes.
option.
There's lots of logistics, in my opinion, that would have to be safety.
Well, you need
Mosquitoes.
to find a place to, where they need to have access to it, need to have some parking, maybe even some washrooms or something. So there is some things, but anything's possible, Mr. Mayor.
Like I said, just something that I never given any thought. To me, Elmer was the answer kind of thing, but with all the cost and everything that has to be done to Elmer to make it viable. He just mentioned maybe something in town,
Yeah.
where he mentioned Winoka or Lacombe, I think it was, had official, yes, council call.
So what was the end results for Elmo? Like, the study that they spent?
The study that was done, from what I can recall, they had concern about the high level of pH in the water. They had concern about the temperature of the water, because it wasn't deep enough, that the water temperatures were getting too high for fish to sustain themselves. And I think the other issue we have out there, and if you're a bird lover, it's great, they get them. The Alberta Parks or Environment still comes out and stocks it every spring.
Comrades and
Yeah,
elegance.
yeah, so. But those were the two things off the top of my head, Councillor Crowell, was the water temperature was getting too hot to sustain, as well as the pH was pretty high, so.
So does that relate to water level then as well?
Well, obviously that would relate to water level too. So this year, if you went out and took the temperature, it would be a lot warmer because it's shallower.
I think I've seen, well, in some of the developments in the cities and stuff, like Airdrie, I think there's development around a body of water that they've made and I don't know if they're fishing or stocked or whatever, but that is not really out of.
Yeah, a lot of the
possibility.
ones in the cities are storm ponds.
Okay,
So that's where all their storm water is directed to. And they are somewhat successful. I know a lot of cities are having big challenges with them right now because people are putting their goldfish in.
so
now they're trying to harvest out all the goldfish out of them, so. But yeah, no, we can certainly look at it, but if you guys if anybody comes up with an idea for a location, certainly that's a good start, so.
It was just, like I said, just a ratepayer with a different idea. And
Town owns that land up there by Marvin Cards, right?
Across from the co-op, Yeah.
You know, something like that could be developed.
potentially,
There's
yeah.
that, there's west or east of Lutheran Church, there's.
Yeah.
So, no, just like I said, I commend them for giving some thought to it instead of just telling us we had to get it done. So we get you get a lot of that.
It's kind of like Elmer Dam's had a lot of money spent on it as far as studies and everything else, but nothing's come up as a solution, or like.
Yeah,
there was some discussion about aeration though too, wasn't there?
yeah, no, aeration was also a thought, and it's also a recommendation if you were going to want to keep it sustainable. But yeah, in my time, Councilor Crowell, we did do the one study. I don't know if I'm not aware of any before that, but I know we did one probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2, maybe 3
Maybe
time
3,
flies, so.
Yeah.
And it's good, it's on our
Super
website too, if you ever want it, Councilor Crowell, I can get you a copy.
Just a lot of the solutions are big money, right?
Mhm.
Like even fixing up Fox Lake, it'd be nice to put a proper dock for the boats and everything, but when you start looking at the money for those docks and what special areas and then pay, where are you gonna get the funds to do our infrastructure and other
I was
stuff?
gonna say, this is the first time of year that's actually made some money, so.
Well, yeah, and it's down, it's sad because the water levels are low enough that a guy could do a lot of work to get prepared. But you need the funds to do it. Right?
Yeah, and it's been making money for the last couple of years, I think, since some of the last managers have been.
Yeah,
working on
it's close to break even.
or
Um,
profit.
But yeah, this year's certainly an abnormal year, but, and they're, unfortunately, they're not there because of the lake. They're there because it's a campground and they're in town and need a place, so.
Facilities.
how did we make out with the new transformer came out there for the power
It's
upgrade?
not here yet.
Okay, no, I just,
We paid the deposit,
Okay.
but, we haven't seen it yet,
Okay.
so.
What would it take to, look at having cabins out at Fox Lake? Or
Well-
actually having, along, the one side there.
So there is, the challenges from the town's perspective is most of that land is special areas. It's in special areas jurisdiction. So would have to go, the town owns the campground, which is in special areas, but, anything, on the primarily, so we've got the east side. But the west, north and south are primarily in special areas. Mr. Hutton, is looking at that. I think we have a meeting. Mark set up a meeting with landowners, myself, Mr. Hutton, and some representatives of Palliser and
Oh.
special areas, I think later in October. I know there's been some initial hesitation from the landowners that are out there, that they don't want to see any development along Fox Lake. Again, they have their reasons. So I know that the meeting with Mr. Hutton might not go really smooth because I know the landowners out there aren't interested in seeing a bunch of people and cabins and access to the lake and stuff like that. So there's some land ownership and there's some, and the fact that it's in special areas jurisdiction, so.
We also have, it's dammed. What was there, 5 or 6 dams? So that it was built to hold water. We had environment out, and when you raise the water, when the water gets higher, it starts to wear away those dams. And there's some work that we should be looking into because it is our responsibility, and we started looking into that. So in order to build cabins there, you'd have to get environmental permission because those dams are basically holding the water in there.
And until you go out and visualize it, when you hear people talk about a dam, you think of a structure, but they've basically filled the low areas in between the two areas with clay and compacted it, shaped it, and they consider that a dam. And consequences of that, of what happens if there's a breach of that dam, determines how many inspections you have to have and what type of regulations you have to put in. So there would be some work too in regards to how close they could build to the edge. Like I don't think Alberta Environment on those dam areas would grant any permission. So,
And then once you do that, that changes your risk assessment on your dam. So
if
then
they
you
don't,
gotta
if they do breach, if you've got more
Right.
property and more life in those areas, then it increases the risk and the consequences, so.
Is that on the other side of the road? Like that one roadway going in there, would that be on the east side of that?
So there is dams on both the north side and the south side.
Okay.
And when you walk them, you can actually see them. Until you get out and walk them, you don't really know.
Is that too, just sort of north in between the Palmer Dam and the Fox Lake is a dam?
There is one there, one further back. Kind of along the road by Dr. Dave's, there's one there.
Between Dr. Dave's and Kyle and Tammy's,
There's
there's a pretty significant one
one
there.
there.
That I think used to, before they put it in, would have flooded out down into what Brass always called Bum Lake.
Yeah.
But they built that up to retain the water.
And I think
This was
there's
all done
3 in between Scott's Land, well,
Yeah.
on Scott's
on the
Land.
north side.
Yeah.
So the east side of that property, like the roadway when you come in there that runs north and south there,
Yeah.
on the east side of that property, there's
That's
some-
town owned land.
that, yeah, so that's actually the
could-
property
you
that I'm
could-
actually
Oh,
thinking.
You
would
could
be-
look at something there, or,
That would be a bit, that would be a safe zone, that
yeah,
there's nothing
yeah,
Yeah.
infringing on that.
that's right.
or
It
anything.
wouldn't be, environment or anything, but
Yeah.
it would be, I guess, if it's the town's land, so if a private developer was gonna build on there, then we'd have to either lease him the land or sell him the land, or the town would become the developer and build them, so,
That's what I think,
okay.
enhance it and have, you know, maybe generate more revenue if we could. So
Well, I
that-
think it seems to be this glamping. Where they basically have a tent that's
Yeah.
furnished and
Yeah,
I
That's
laughed about it. when
It's
it was-
amazing. what they-
Well, I thought,
Yeah.
what the hell is glamping? But down at Dinosaur Provincial Park, they have it. There's a ton of them around. It's basically a motel room tent.
And there's been talk for many years about putting more camp stalls in that area as well. But it's come down to priorities and dollars.
Mhm.
And it's hard to invest that there when you've got some other higher priority.
How many days would we be full a year?
We're not, I don't know if we've been 100% full this year. All our full service sites, I think we've got about 16 or 17 have been full all year.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's been a time where you couldn't go out there and have a power site. Yeah.
And cabins bring a different dimension. You don't have to have all this trailers and all the extras, like you try and get any cabin anywhere from here to the west coast, east coast, anywhere. If you don't book at least a year in advance, you can't get into those cabins. Like, I think the cabins would be a way to go to, you know, those would be booked months in advance.
It'd just
And it's
be,
still-
it'd just be looking at what the cost of that development would be.
Right, and there will be a
And
cost.
the
of
business case as to how many years
Infrastructure.
it would take to get your investment back.
and I know Dr. Dave, but if you were to clean the water up, it's tough to compete with PO because that's filtered water, but if you could clean it up, get rid of the leaches and have it so you could launch your boats and, because there was people still paddle boarding and stuff. It does get used.
There was a guy swimming out there every night. My mother and father-in-law camped out there. Up by the cookhouse, because that was available. And there was a fella from town that was, well, I should say from town, there was someone out there swimming every night.
Yeah. Yes, for years.
Okay,
It was, I grew up swimming up there. It could be, but if you could clean it up, that would bring people there as well.
So what's involved in cleaning up, adding certain chemicals?
Well, yeah, we'd have to find a chemical that can
Environmentally
get
friendly.
rid of,
Well, they used to talk about
Bluestone.
bluestone.
but that's harmful to dogs. so.
Yeah,
Barrels.
yeah, but they won't allow you to do that anymore, so.
And get a proper dock to launch your CDs or whatever. I think that would make the campground, I mean, upgrading the power and adding water to the sites, that'll be huge. I
Cause
think
didn't we
that'll,
have a dock out there one time? Cause I remember when we had.
there is, but it fills in with sand.
Yeah.
And we've cleaned it, like, if you drive out now, you don't have the concrete and the sand. And there used to be one on the north side, Dr. Dave said, but we were gonna have a meeting with him and try to figure something out, but again, it's all, when I talked to John Armstrong about what PO's docks costed, we, yeah, like,
The other challenge, I think the other thing, not to say we can't do it, but I think the other thing has always been, at least for our local residents, that Special Areas has Prairie Oasis and they've invested significant dollars in that. So if we start investing significant dollars here, are we, stealing some of the same clientele? So I don't think there's been a push.
I don't think so.
Would have to.
I think the locals deal more with Fox Lake and don't like outsiders deal mostly with PO or no?
No, I would think, I don't camp out there, but I know there's a significant number of locals who camp out at PO.
I don't think we'd be in competition at all. It's a broad range of locals and others out there, but here, this is a different dimension, I think.
Well, as a kid, trips at Fox Lake was one of the hot spots there was,
Yeah,
you know, like, I mean. There was probably 20 boats, you know.
but you'll remember the days when you could walk across it too.
Yeah, Mac and Homestead used to carry me across on their shoulders. Yeah.
So, and that's the other challenge you always run into with that water body is if you don't have the runoff, you're just gonna lose the water line, so.
Well, it's low this year.
Yeah.
Substantially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't, I don't think we've put water in it for 2 or 3 years.
Very little last year, or year before, nothing last year, didn't even run.
And my fear, if you look at Watts Flats and the canal there, it's bone dry. And it's like, even at our diversion structure, the flats are gonna have to raise up 4, 5, 6 feet before it's even gonna run into
back in.
Fox Lake.
Thank you.
And the other side is, everything is so dry around Fox Lake to get some run into there.
Yes. Yeah,
Like at Holman at Lloydminster, they had feet of snow. And there was no runoff, it just soaked up and so. Okay, Mr. Olson, Public Works.
I have nothing to add to my report at this time. I'll take some questions. I have been on some vacation, so
I have a question.
sure.
Well, I have a comment. Can you expand on the fire fit competition?
I can.
please?
The fire fit teams went to nationals. One of the relay teams brought home a bronze. And then we were offered to come back to the Worlds, which was in Spruce Meadows. So they ran on Friday and got their seed time. And then they ran 2 races on Sunday, beating their time both times. So they had a great weekend. They did the Hannah area very proud. The Drumheller team was there as well. We get along with them very well. They actually ended up bringing home a bronze for over 40, their team. So they did really well.
He's underestimating. There were people there from Germany and from France.
Yeah, there's Quebec, Germany, United States.
Yeah, and some of these guys that were from Germany that were 55 plus. Look like, I don't know, some sort of physical fit instructor or something. They were in incredible shape. And so for these guys, they won, they beat their competitive team twice.
Yeah.
They won 2 of theirs and the other, yeah, and for them to, their last race to beat their previous best time is awesome.
Yeah,
So,
they seated at 153, they ran a 137. And then their next run was 136. They went up against Quebec, which their seed time was 117. They actually stumbled a little bit, they ended up at 120. But some of these guys are running this whole course in 1:07. 1:03. So I think the short guys who won was 1:03.
It's an obstacle course, right? You have to
Yeah.
drag somebody, go upstairs, climb
They
that.
start with the hose pack, they go up the stairs, they pull a hose rope up, so they go 6 stories. Hose roll up, they come down, force entry, run a pylon, grab a charged line, go spray it. Then they pick up Randy, who's 175 pounds, and drag him 20 feet.
Yeah. I
And they're
went to
doing
one
it in
for in
minutes,
Ontario.
7.
It
It's great.
was absolutely worth every cent. It was the most amazing competition I've ever watched.
and there was one female in there. If you don't mind, can you say the name?
Jill,
Well, I know Jill, not,
But,
I mean,
which
all the
ones?
competitors, all the people that competed.
oh, there, I don't
No,
know.
no,
all
but
of-
for the,
from Hannah, who was on it?
Oh, from Hannah.
yeah,
The guys that ran it this time, was Jeremy Ness, Jill, Jovan Deadlock, Patrick May, and, Braden Volk. Patty ran it individually and beat his times both times, seed. He ranked out of, I think it's out of 90, I think he ended up ranking 60th. Patty, so this is his first time doing it, so, yeah, they did fabulous, the fire department. Devin, Booze is usually there, he was texting the whole time,
Oh,
wishing he was here, so.
yeah, for sure.
but some of these competitors, some of these larger centers like Ottawa and Quebec and things of that nature, they are paid to do their training.
Well,
And-
they're full-time firemen too, so.
Well, that's what I mean, is that they're paid, but they were specifically said, this is your time, because they can have sponsors and stuff, from my understanding, from what you guys said. And to have our volunteer fire department can dedicate that time, their own time, as well as holding a job and all the other stuff. I think we've done incredible, and I think they really deserve a good kudos for their efforts.
Is there some publicity around that? Like, I haven't really read anything or seen anything.
It was in the
Okay.
paper the last time they won, and they're gonna make sure and try and put it on Facebook, on
Yeah.
the fire department, and back in the paper.
Okay, yeah.
And I do appreciate Sandra bringing it up and showing up to watch the guys.
Well, I just think it is so
You
awesome.
in?
Yeah, I did. I went in to see it.
Oh,
I got there about two races before.
Oh, did you? Okay, awesome.
And it was
They did
perfect
very
timing.
good.
Yeah, they
Yep.
did awesome. So anyways, thank you. That's.
Question for you, the Bullcrown Creek water, it's gone and done and,
We are draining it right now, and in
Okay.
fact, tomorrow we take our samples and send it.
Okay.
So it's on its way. We are having trouble with, we have a bunch of beavers that are very busy by the highway.
Yeah.
We have to clear it weekly. So when Garth does his backwash, that water should be going down, but it's not. So we have talked to some local trappers. Kim has talked to some, but they haven't got out there yet. So we're looking into some traps and
There's some off the CN Dam as well, like just
Yeah.
by the roundhouse.
we can
there.
kind of see the run. Mr. Gaynor figures there's probably 20 out there.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
There has to be quite a few, because like I say, we can clear it and in 3 days, they've got it down back. So,
Golf course has much.
yeah, the golf course, that's it too. But yeah, the Bull Pond Creek is emptied and we are sampling tomorrow.
Thank you.
anything else? Talked to Ross Branch and they did a test plot up at Civil, with the Billings.
Good hat.
Yeah, anyway, they think they found the caramel secret. Basically, they laid down about 6 inches of millings and then they found a bonding agent. They have crushed that product that they ran up there though. And so. Maybe we can,
I've actually talked to Sean. I was in Moyen last Wednesday. And I toured from Moyen up and I looked at it. I have a quote on the product that they put down. It's fairly expensive. It looked really good. I took some pictures. I'm gonna go out with Sean and probably meet Ross too to talk about it. I think a good place to try it. It needs a solid base underneath. And they crush it. So the work is the money before even the oil. So
oh yeah, no,
you have to crush it, put 4 inches of this material, use a big roller drum, pack it, and then they put, I can't think of the name, I have it here. They put this seal on it. What it does is it's supposed to go in and basically heat the bottom and then cure everything back together, according to the gentleman I talked with. When I was out there at Civil, there was a bobcat that works, there's a co-op store, and it was chewing it up pretty good. But to the guys, I mean, if you take a bobcat on our pavement, it'll chew it up too. So I think a good place to start with it, in Civil, there's not a lot of traffic. So how do you know if it's gonna hold up? I would like to see it in front of the Hannah Motor Products and down. Because that's a fairly solid base and they used a material there that we can't chew back up. Unlike railroad, I know some people think that we put new an agent on there, a new dust agent. We just chewed it up and relayed it. There was enough oil that we were able to do that.
yeah, because in front of my place, there's some kind of soil cement.
It's
wasn't
soil
it?
cement
Yeah.
and it's harder and we can't chew it up.
Yeah.
But because it's just starting to break down now, I think that would be a good spot to try it. Because then you're gonna get all of the traffic, like that's fairly busy.
Oh, we get lots of traffic.
So you definitely find out if it's gonna hold up before we go any further. But I haven't had the opportunity to talk to Sean about that.
And I got to jump.
Yeah.
No, it's all good, and I looked into it, because of, I was trying to see what it would cost to oil that little bit by, UFA, since the rest of the road is pretty nice to knock some of the dust down, but I think it's something we're gonna have to put in next year's budget, because it's upwards of 20 grand just for the oil, and it was double the cost for that other stuff. But you still have to crush it. So I know Sean was talking about doing it at the fire hall. So there is talk about bringing a crusher in and doing some crushing here. So I'm gonna have a meeting with him and see what we.
No, I didn't like this. I'm not.
No, but at the end of the day, Mr. Mayor, we want to bring some options to council at budget time in terms of railroad, in terms of the East Industrial Road, as well as South Municipal, and whether it's the millings, whether it's chewing up the existing oil and re-oiling it. So we will be bringing some of that information for budget.
And I would like to do East Industrial Road, but the problem with East Industrial Road, we could probably go from Big Country all the way around on the other side of the concrete plant, but in the spring by co-op, it gets frost boils real bad. This year was good, but last years before that.
It is just.
So we'd have to dig it out, pit run, filter cloth it, pit run it before we spend the money on oil. Otherwise, we're just gonna end up with it. So there is a little bit extra to do on that road, which will bring the budget.
I'm just wondering, if there could be an opportunity to maybe address the issue, dealing with First Street and First Avenue, which is a gravel road, in town, as well as Second Street East.
We're going to address that. My plan is I'll put some, we talked about that in a director's meeting.
Okay,
I'm gonna put millings on it tomorrow.
oh, perfect,
So that'll knock the dust down. I
Yeah.
don't think there's that much traffic on that road,
but just the dust would be.
but
great
we will
addition.
we'll knock all the pumps out of it or potholes out of it. And we're gonna put millings on it and see if that helps.
Okay, that would be great, because I did, everybody probably already knows what is paved in that, the first road north of, Railway Avenue. There's only two streets that are residential or have residential properties on them that are gravel. And, 2, 4, 5 others that are, everything else is paved. So, it would be kind of nice if we could accommodate Second Street as well as First Street.
So as
Wow. Yeah.
Brent has alluded to, we're going to see, they're not heavy traffic roads. So we're gonna put some millings down and see, that'll buy us, definitely improve and buy some time. But there's not a lot of traffic on those roads, and not to be, I guess, disrespectful to the people who are living on those streets and complaining, they've always been a gravel road.
I've
They
never
bought,
seen,
they were
They bought
gravel.
their gravel. It isn't like we changed it and now
No,
we've
but-
made it worse.
yeah, but why is there only 2 streets that have gravel in all of town?
Why
You'll have
does my lot not have sewer?
No, but just why not? Why?
I think that, and I can't answer the question, the forefathers of the day
Yeah,
paved those roads thinking, I think primarily thinking they were in the core area of town, and they got paved over the years.
Mhm. It just would be a nice gesture. I think.
Yeah, and that's why we want to try and see if it'll help.
And we could get a quote, the oil that we're doing it's a little cheaper because we're using millings.
Mhm.
So we can get a quote for those roads as well and bring it to budget to see what it costs. If we were just to oil them, not paved.
Mhm.
And that spray is called Reclamite. See, yeah. And if that works, that could be the ticket right here.
Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, exactly. So they're just trying it, they're looking at it. I did drive it, but I want to go out.
Yeah, I know,
Really
just
look
Ross
at
and I were talking, they needed some hydraulic stuff and then I asked what was new and exciting and he mentioned that and I kept.
Yeah, no, it looked good, so we'll see how it goes. But like I say, civil, I can't see there being a lot of traffic, so
There's not a lot of traffic.
but put it somewhere where there's some traffic, we'll see how it goes.
We have a place.
We do good.
Will you be contacted?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else for Mr. Olson? Hearing nothing, council accepts the administrative official reports 801 to 803 as information. Councilor Bowden. All in favor? Carried. Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Board.
So, Mr. Mayor, if you want to put the motion on the table.
Council directs CAO to enter into an agreement for the Regional Assessment Review Service with the City of Red Deer to establish membership. The town of Hannah as a partner municipality in the Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Board effective January 1st, 2023. Motion, discussion first.
Well, no, we.
Motion, Council Warwick.
So, Mr. Mayor, as you've read in the report, the town of Hannah has been operating without an assessment review board for at least 12 years. In 2010, 2009, 2010, the province changed their requirements for people to be on assessment review board, so they had to have training and refresh training every 3 years. And out here, knock on wood, we haven't had any appeals. So in 2010, looked like the town and the municipalities of Empress, Serial, Youngstown, Oyen, MD of Acadia, and the special areas had a plan to create their own joint assessment review board. At that time, I think they were working with Palliser. I'm not sure what happened, but it never got off the ground. So council we have a bylaw to enter into that joint agreement that's still valid, but we didn't have any trained members. We didn't have a trained clerk. We didn't have any of that stuff. And fortunately, we haven't had any appeals. So this was identified when the government did their municipal accountability program and said, well, you're not meeting the requirements we expect you to. So they've given us grace to try and figure out a solution. I did hope that maybe we could get the Palliser one up and running again, since we got the intermunicipal subdivision development appeal board up and running, but there just didn't seem to be a heavy desire amongst other municipalities to do this. A lot of the municipalities have joined this Central Alberta group. The downfall with the Central Alberta group is there's an annual cost of $2,000, whether you have an appeal or don't have an appeal. The positive side of it is that if we do get an appeal, we're ready to deal with it appropriately and in the right way. So I know Drumheller just joined last year, and there's a number of municipalities that have joined. I was worried that they wouldn't have capacity to take more, but they did say they could take us on. So I'm looking for council to give authority to enter into the agreement. And then later on in your agenda, we have to approve the bylaw to enter into that Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Board. So is there any questions? We can now officially have an appeal and feel comfortable. But I just, nobody hates this. It's an insurance policy. If it happens, then we basically, if we get an appeal, we still accept it. But then we basically call the City of Red Deer, who are the coordinator, and said, okay, we have an assessment appeal. Here's the information. They set up the clerk, they set up the members, and they set up the date and time for the hearing, and they go through that whole process on our behalf. So
will that be here meeting, or do they, people that have to travel all the way to Red Deer?
they would, I'm not sure, Council Thorough, but I think they would try and set the hearing up here. It just means more costs for us, because then if you've got people traveling, they're traveling here. But the bottom line is you want to make it as convenient as you can for your residents or your people who are making the appeals. So.
that be another, excuse me,
Counselor.
will that be another subcommittee that will have appointments to in,
No,
no?
no,
Just have-
the only thing would be, and I, because we haven't entered into the agreement or joined them, if any of our council members, or even if there was any members in large who wanted to get trained, we could probably put their name forward to them to see next time they're doing training, if they get trained and get put into their roster. The challenge is there's not a ton of appeals, so you don't want to train 50 people and then you do an appeal once every 5 years. So it's trying to find that right number where the people you get trained get 4 or 5 appeals a year and are keeping their skills up and ready to deal with it, and not having too many and they're not getting enough, because then they'll lose interest and they'll say, well, why did I bother to do that? So.
What are the other members of our original plan doing?
That I didn't check with our original ones. I don't know with these guys. I don't know what they're doing. I just know a number in this area and west of here have joined, like Trochu, Three Hills, Linden, Mehill. All of those have joined this Red Deer one. So I don't know if they're having any appeals, and we're not either. But I know that the province has been saying we need to get this cleaned up. We've given you time, you need to get
10
cleaned up.
years.
So
12 years.
well, but it's been, since they did the review, it's been 3 or 4 years as well. So
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Waste collection contract extension. Council extends the regional waste contract with Mr. Darcy Leopard for the provision of the residential waste cleanup for 2-year period, January 2023 to December 31st, 2024. The original at the original agreement price of $75,400 plus GST per year. Motion. That's cool.
So, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Limpert has provided residential waste collection services. At the end of this year will be 9 years providing that service. We've done 3-year contracts. I was in discussion with him a few weeks ago to let him know that it was coming due and see if he was still interested. Because I know the last time we entered into a 3-year agreement, he thought that might be his last 3-year agreement, but I think plans have changed with him and his wife. I think she's planning to continue to work for a couple more years. And so he thinks he should be working for a couple more years. So when I told him it was up the end of this year, he said, oh, really? And I said, yeah, it's been 3 more years, Darcy. So then he said, well, could you guys extend it for another 2 years? And I said, well, I can't extend it for another 2 years, but I can ask council if they would be amenable to it. So he said he would honor everything that was in the existing agreement. So price, everything. So as a result of that, I felt it was reasonable enough to bring it back to council, knowing, costs of operations have gone up. He's always been either the low tender or very close to the low tender. Even when we did it 3 years ago, I think there was $500 difference in a year. So the RFP does indicate that the contract may be extended for up to a maximum of 2 years. So I'm bringing it to council tonight to see what your thoughts on it are, and I would recommend approval. Darcy's done the job satisfactorily for the last 9 years. He's local. I think we're getting a very good price, and if he's prepared to honor the existing price, I would recommend that we move forward with that. So if council chooses not to, we can go through an RFP process again here in the next few months to bring something back.
So that was just gonna be my question. What's the protocol or bylaws for the RFP process? Like, we can just automatically extend a contract without.
This
going
was,
through-
There was a
This is
provision
part
in
of
it already.
Yeah,
because it's a 3-year contract with the option to extend for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
it was
so
in the
that-
RFP, yeah.
In that
It
contract.
wasn't in the contract, but it was in the RFP that it could be extended
I
for an
see.
additional 2 years.
Okay, that's my question. Okay, thank you.
And yeah, last time there was, I got cleared in for exactly $500 less, assuming, I'm guessing that the lowest bid would get it. But the value of somebody who's been there and knows they're doing.
Yeah, well, council made the decision 3 years ago. It was 500. There was someone who put a tender in $500 a year less, but again, someone new to the industry, new to the business. And we had, a proven track record with Mr. Lippert. So council approved that to continue with Mr. Lippert. So
Council Bowden.
If he can still live eggs, then I'm all, no, I've had no problems with him. I've heard no complaints or anything. And I would make the motion.
I think Mr. Kroll already did.
Oh, sorry.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried.
So, Mr. Kroll. Thank you.
Hannah Senior Amenities Zone Project. Recommend a motion to council amend the tender to award the town of Hannah Senior Amenity Project to Urban Light Solutions by removing the electric conduit installation for future lighting along Palliser Trail from the scope of the project, which includes a tender for $419,553.77 plus GST to $377,785.90 plus GST, and the future contingency for the project to be increased by $41,567.87. Motion. Council Bowden.
So, Mr. Mayor, I know we talked about this previously when we were talking about what we could change to reduce the cost of the project. And I know council had indicated that they'd like to keep the conduit in for future electrical lights along the trail, which will be along Palliser Trail. We met with the contractor last week, or might have been the week before, late in the week. And we walked through the site, walked through all the work that had to be done, and we talked about the electrical. And their concern was how the electrical conduits would be finished on surface for, I think there was 19 potential lights that would go along there. Since there's no direction on future when the lights could go in, they could go in next year, could be 3 years, could be 5 years. We don't know when they'll go in. So I asked them, they said it's not really a substantial savings to do it at the time they're there. They'll trench, but they're not going to be trenching under the pathway. It would be beside the pathway. They would trench the conduit in and run the wiring in, and then it would come up. And so in discussions with them, I asked them to give us a price. What would we save from the project if we did that? And it would be the $41,000 we would save. And so as I was thinking, I wanted to bring this back to council to see if they're amenable to that change. At the end of the day, what I think, I'm not 100% convinced we need 19 pedestrian lights along there. And the other thing is, when it will happen, I don't know. And this provides us an opportunity if we do want to invest in lights 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road, whenever that time is, that we might be able to reduce that and go with 8 or 10 or whatever we think is a reasonable amount, and maybe a different style of light fixture. Well, and that was their comment, that that it's not like we're saving a bunch of money, that they do it right then when they're there. But they do say, you know, you can't control inflation or anything as we move forward, but if they do it, all we're gonna be left with is conduit coming out of the ground, 19 places along there. So my recommendation would be that we remove it from the scope. I don't want to reduce the project budget scope, but at the end of the day, if we don't spend the full amount, we'll see savings on that as well as the grant. We won't utilize the full amount of the grant, but we won't have to match the grant either. So, and I'm a little bit leery. I'm a little bit leery just with the stuff we pulled out of the project in terms of the remediation that's now ours. That you know, if there is some electrical damage in Hector King Hunter Park, irrigation damage, there's going to be some costs there that are a little unknown. So it just gives us a little bit of buffer if things do go a little bit
So can we
sideways.
backdoor our services into that then?
What
Like
do you mean by
maybe, well, for example, if Brent, or sorry, Kevin's crew has to fix some irrigation because of this construction, can that go onto that, grant?
Yes,
Okay,
anything we contract can.
And with the contractor would have to have insurance so that they really mess something up. When they're.
Yeah, but the part of the tender is the stuff that's underground. We don't have, like the Hector King Hunter Park irrigation was put in 50 years ago. Like, we need to,
Replaced anyway.
we need to, like Kevin said, had some steel nylon wire that was irrigation still in there because they used when they put it in 50 years ago. We've been patching it and piecemealing it to make it work, but we don't have a map of exactly where it's at and located. Same with electrical. They're going to do their best to stay within an area, but there's no guarantee as they're removing.
as to what's where.
As they're removing that they don't, the irrigation line doesn't run there. So it just gives us a little extra comfort zone in case something does go a little off kilter. So
Does that put the crosswalk sign up?
yeah, because it's solar.
Yes.
Yeah, so it doesn't need power.
But wasn't there something else that had to go with that as well? Or no?
We'll have to buy an additional unit. Like we've got the one piece that flashes, we'd have to buy another piece. So that would come out of our contingency.
Yeah.
We'd have to buy that other one to have them both speak to each other. So, and flash on both sides, not in the middle.
Yes. Okay.
You still have the post.
Not in the middle.
Go ahead, Counselor Olson.
I'd rather see it done, and have them in there. Just because if it's capped, however, they're gonna finish the conduit, I mean, 19 spots, we don't have to put 19 lights up. I'd rather see it there. I just, in the future, when we go to do this, want to put lights up, we buy a light, a local electrician to come in, they can, if the conduit's there, they can complete the project, and they're gonna have to wait to actually get everything trenched and do it all. Unless you feel the contingency is nowhere near enough.
Well, I don't know. That's where I don't know, Counselor
I
Olson.
guess that's the-
It just gives me a little bit of comfort. And the other thing too, right, wrong, or others, it will make, if council decides down the road or whenever it is that they want to add lights, it will cost more to do that at that time.
Or do we do it now?
But the challenge is that I think then we could probably, because it's a much smaller project, we could probably go to one of our local contractors and say, you know, go ahead and can you do this and install these fixtures here? They're just worried because the tender doesn't include the concrete conduit, the concrete base for the conduit. So you'll have the conduit there and then it's exposed, and how you can landscape it and keep it aesthetically pleasing, I guess, for we don't know how many years, right? So that was my rationale.
I would be supportive of having it taken, if there's an option of being able to have local contractors working on it down the way. Once we have some idea or better idea, like CAO Neil had mentioned, whether we need 19, or maybe we only need half or whatever, so I'm quite supportive of the motion on the table.
Council Carroll, I could hear you thinking.
Just thinking about how many do you really need though, like you said, 19,
Yeah,
what is? Find the lights that you're gonna put in.
Yeah, well,
What's the
they
big
were in
picture?
there.
I guess, Councilor Thorough, my thought on the 19 was, that's utopia, that's if
Yeah.
you, perfect world, you'd want to do that, all
That's what we're
things,
building here, Ken.
all things, all things considered. But I know I did make the comment to council when we were going through the project in terms of what we could pull out. I did indicate that in my mind, we could pull the lighting out, just from the fact that none of our other trails are lit
Yeah,
and have been in place for a number of years. There will be some residual light from the streetlights on that trail, like there is on our other shale trails. But, you know, we've managed and operated so far without it. And so it was something I thought if we needed to pull something from the project, we could.
Have you talked to the neighbors, you know, where the lights are going to be and is it going to be disturbing to them? If you got too
They're
much
gonna
light?
be, the lights that are there are the lower,
Yeah,
low pedestrian lights. Like they're not a street light.
Yeah.
They're a low pedestrian light, so.
or easily vandalized style.
well, it doesn't, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's
And
just,
you could either go, you know, you could also go for just putting in enough for 5 or enough for a quarter of the number that's indicated or something, but if you're gonna, I would think that if you're going to look at lights along that trail, perhaps you also want to do the, you know, the other trails at the same time, and then maybe, yeah, I'm in favor of.
I just think that if the
motion.
world and its costing for different projects doesn't change significantly, that I don't know when council will be able to justify spending a few $100,000 to install lights on that trail.
would be beneficial. I see a lot of guys walking in the middle of the street with flat clothes, you know, which would be a little nicer if they were on that.
Well, yeah, that's the intention. It will get them off the road.
Yeah.
And even the other day, when we were out there doing the walk arounds, probably we were there through lunch hour. So there was probably 20 or 25 kids walking up and down there, coming back with their Slurpee and their chips and stuff. So I know that it's not just for the seniors, but there will be, and that will get them off the road. And I think if it's, especially if it's asphalt, it will be our first asphalt trail. I think it will be well used.
And maybe that's the key there, is having us all walk it prior to making this decision and actually determining, you know, do we feel like we need it? Is it necessarily right now? And
Well-
actually going through what you said you did, because I haven't walked it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Whether 7 lights, 19, 30, whatever lights you need, I don't know. I have no idea.
And I guess that's to my way of thinking, then once we've got it installed and we see how it's being used, then it'd be easier to make that determining factor.
Plus nowadays, you know, people have flashlights on their phone, you know, is that gonna be something that people, I don't know, I use mine all the time.
Not when you're walking.
I don't know, we just need a decision.
It's dark.
One or the other. It can be in the scope, it can be out of scope, but I wasn't gonna make that decision without having council's approval to pull it from the scope if it's something that council wants in there, so.
So we have a motion on the floor to pull it out of the scope. Any more conversation?
I'm sorry, that was me.
I realize that,
Mhm.
and that's fine, you can still have the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Y'all don't want utopia fine.
There was some slow hands there, so did we get
Well,
it?
there will be a lighting grant path.
Well, there could be another grant opportunity in the future, definitely.
Well,
Okay,
in a perfect world.
yeah,
APCO Electric franchise fee, council set APCO Electric's franchise fee report for information. And direct administration to inform APCO that the town of Hannah will not be requesting an increase to the franchise fee for 2023. From the current rate of 7.5%. Motion. Councilor Farrell.
so as we entered into new franchise agreements, both with ATCO Gas and with ATCO Electric, specifically on the electric side, we entered into agreement in 2013. At that time, the franchise fee was 3.5%. Council increased it to 5%. And then again in 2018, council increased it from 5 to 7.5%. And the thought was to look at it every 5 years to see if we wanted to make a change. So 2023 would have been a 5 years and the year to make a change. As you can see in the report from ATCO, if we want to request a change, we have to publicize notice to our residents prior to October 10th to see if there's any comments. Then we would have to approve that and send it to ATCO, and who would send it to the AUC to get it approved and timing to be implemented for January 1. We would probably have no issues with the AUC because we as a municipality are allowed to go up to 20%. And they can't really argue or turn us down if our request is for that. But when I look at our revenues that we're generating, we generate 7.5% of all revenues, including distribution, transmission, and demand charges. So as we know, there's been some increases on the distribution and transmission side, which we get 7.5% benefit from as we move forward. So I know that if you talk to people about their utility bills, their energy bills, they'll give you an earful of how crazy it is and how much it's costing them. So by not changing ours or increasing it, it won't increase the amount that they have to pay on their bill. So I think we're comfortable, but I do want council to know that a lot of municipalities are looking at franchise fees instead of tax increases. And the advantage with I know there's only one taxpayer and they're paying, whether they're paying utility bill, whether they're paying taxes, but at the end of the day, you catch more, you spread that increase out over more properties, because when you use taxes, all the municipal properties are exempt.
Provincial.
Schools are exempt, hospitals are exempt, all those are exempt from paying taxes. So when you apply it across the board on their utility bill, nobody's exempt. But I think we're okay at this point in time, and it might be something we want to consider next year again. But at this point, I'm recommending we just leave it at the same for the 2023 year. As you can see from our neighbors, we're pretty much in the ballpark with them, you know, ranging from Stettler at 11% to Youngstown at 1.25%. So we're kind of right in the middle with all of them at 7.5. So if we raised it 1%, it brings us in almost $30,000. The 2.5% brings us, you know, $70,000, which I know we would find ways to spend that money, but I think that you know, if we can hold the line on the utility fee, that's one fee that won't be going up that our residents have to pay. So, and it is a bit of a, for those businesses who are high power users, it is something that smart businesses will look at when they're considering locating to an area, setting up a business, because if you're paying 7.5 here and you're paying 12% in Stettler, that's a significant difference you're paying every month. So I know that some people will look at that, and that'll be one of their factors they consider when they're looking at establishing a business. So
Any more questions? All in favor?
Favor of keeping it the same?
Yes.
Yes.
The timing on this is always bad because it's before you've really got into budgets and you can't really see how much, if you say, geez, we could use another $70,000, we'd be able to do this. Then you go, oh, well, we could just do this, but this is the timing that they got set up, so it gives us direction to know that there's not gonna be any increase there, so.
Returning officers report. Council accept for information, returning officers report dated September 13th, 2022. Regards to the 2022 municipal by-election submitted by Gucci. Motion. Council Olson.
I thought Councilor Thorough would make that motion.
Sure.
So, yeah, so it's nothing really there, that's just, we went through the process, at the end of the day, Mr. Thorough was the only one brave enough to put his name forward, and, we move forward from there.
All in favor? Carry. Ten point zero one bylaw 1026.
No, one more report.
Taxation report, sorry about that, man. Council accept the 2022 taxation report for information. Motion. Councilor Farrell.
So just bringing this to you for information, so you kind of know where our tax levels are at, our outstanding taxes, so. As of August 31st. We had $718,000 outstanding versus $807,000 outstanding as the end of August 2021. We did apply penalties on September 1st, 4% of the levy balance. So that was $8,500. Out of the outstanding taxes, we will bring in estimated $431,000 between September 1 and the end of December from those who are on the pre-authorized payment plan. So that will bring us down to about $287,000 at the end of the year. I know we've had some people who come in and made payments because they forgot the payment date, and so we'll deal with it. So they're pretty much in the realm of where they have been. They're a little bit higher than they were at the end of 2021, we're estimating, but it's hard to estimate that because we don't know how much will come in that's not pre-authorized between now and the end of December. And when we finished 2020 was the year we were concerned because it was COVID. We had 329,000 outstanding at the end of 2020. So we're in the ballpark of where we have been, and so nothing concerning there that we have a whole bunch of property owners who haven't paid their taxes. So
If you're on a payment plan, wouldn't your last payment be for that
no,
tax year?
no. So your payment plans are set up on the calendar year.
Okay,
Even though taxes are due the end of August, if you join the payment plan, we use the calendar year, so we will withdraw 1/12 each month.
so that tax on 4%?
No, if you're on a pre-authorized payment plan, you don't pay
Okay,
any tax.
That was my concern.
No.
If they're on a payment plan, why are we taxing
Yeah.
them?
No.
Okay.
And we're getting more and more every year that are taking the pre-authorized payment plan. I think they realize that they're not paying interest on it. They're not gonna generate a ton of interest on that money sitting in their bank account, and it's just easy and they don't have to worry about missing the deadline, so. And it's good for us because it gives us
Steady
a
income.
consistent cash flow instead of having it all, a lot of municipalities who don't have this, are wait until their tax deadline is up, so they've got some cash in the bank, so.
That's what-
And this tax rate is based on the reduced rate.
The
that was
penalty rate.
The penalty,
Yeah.
yes, was voted on to reduce it due to COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we used to, prior to 2020, the tax penalty rate was double. So it was 8, 8, and 10. So 8, you paid 8% on outstanding September 1, 8% outstanding October 1, and 10% outstanding January 1. So during COVID, council made the decision to reduce that penalty to 4, 4, and 5, and we've left it there. I think it's still significant enough that, you know, it encourages people to, pay. As you can tell, most of our accounts are in good shape, but it was, I think, high to serve as a, you know, a real incentive to get your payments in on time. So we're comfortable administratively leaving it at the rate that the penalty rate as it is, and we can't change it. Only council can change that. So.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Carried. Now the bylaw.
Yes.
Recommended motion that council give the first reading bylaw 10/26/2022, Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Board bylaw. The council,
Well,
sorry,
you gotta have that motion,
motion, Councillor Olson,
and then you have to vote on this motion.
okay, all in favor? Carried. Council give a second reading to bylaw 10/26/2022, the Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Board bylaw. Councillor Bowden, all in favor? Carried. Need a motion, council provide unanimous consent for a third and final reading of 10/26/2022, the Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Board bylaw at this meeting. Councillor Warwick, all in favor? Carried. The third, hang on, I scrolled. The third and final reading to bylaw 10/26/2022, the Central Alberta Regional Assessment Review Board bylaw. All in favor? Carried. Congratulations, you passed.
Who made the third reading motion?
I did.
Councillor Warwick. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Dr. Nomi, you're good?
Yep.
Okay. Council reports and roundtable. Starting with Councillor Cole.
Oh, okay, I haven't got anything that I can add to this, other than we were out at Shurness today, and that was a very good tour. I really enjoyed it. It was excellent.
The only difficulty with the tour is it's so hard to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's so hard to hear because you've got hearing protection in and the equipment's loud, and I don't think Dan doesn't have a loud voice. So it was challenging to hear everything he said, but
but like he answered all the questions that anybody had.
Yeah.
Sandra.
Yeah.
Or Mrs.
I wasn't the only one asking.
Oh,
It sounds better.
and if anybody, I know Councillor Olson and Councillor Thorough couldn't make it, and I know Councillor Murphy is feeling ill tonight or today. But Allison did say if anybody does want a tour anytime
More information.
or more information, we can certainly, he's certainly prepared to do that. So.
Okay, Councillor Cole.
I was really, like, surprised by the amount of employment that they have, you know, like, and that they have problems finding employees, you know, and stuff, so. You think a job like that, everybody, would be, you know, quite interested in,
I think it's location.
yeah, that's probably the big thing,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a challenge, location. But it's not only new to them. There's labor challenges in so many fields these days that I don't know. I'm hoping it's gonna get better, but there's a ton of places, like you talked about the place in Oyen closing their business because they don't have any staff, can't get staff, you know.
Secure Energy is looking for 6 guys, Christians and Trucking is looking for 5 guys. Finer Supplies looking for a guy, I mean, but it goes on and on and on. I mean, you see the Nix is looking
Yeah.
for people all the time, the Gray is looking for people all the time.
Well,
Like,
and you look at, and I know there's some specific skills in those, but you know, it's unfortunate when you look at our community and all of the kitchens, or most of the kitchens are closed by 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You know, and because they don't have the staff to keep them open longer and to provide the service they need to, so.
If I can make
Councilor Logan,
a
sorry.
comment on what Councillor Kroll had said too, that I think that's been an issue for a long time with the Sheerness, just because of location and that's why they did a but did install a program that was offered for students in grade 10 to 12. And because they ended up being a training site where they would train all these people that would come from other areas, and then they would go off to bigger centers and that sort of thing. So that was quite successful for them, and it did sound like that is one question I did ask,
He was receptive. to it.
was that they were going to be looking at that again, is to starting a program like that. And due to COVID, it was not being offered, but this would be something that they would be looking at down the way. So going back to that, so it has been successful. They've had several.
Yeah.
Half a dozen or more locals that had taken the program and that were working there.
Yeah.
Did he take you to the pump house? That's a good reason why people want to.
Personally.
There's a lot of spiders in the pump.
Get in there.
Brett doesn't do spiders well.
Didn't
He
know
was like,
Seen Ryan today, but
Yeah.
he's the one who told me about it.
Snakes. Snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Councilor Cole?
No.
How's our waste outfit doing? Everything's copacetic?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I'm,
Is there people are buying into the new, well, it's not the new.
Yeah.
The enforcement. Of what's expected of them and stuff, and put some people in some awkward spots.
It's made quite a difference up there.
It did.
You know, it's a whole lot more appealing, you know, like, I mean, like. I don't know how you make it very safe, you know, appealing, but I mean, it is tidied up and everybody knows now that you have to take your construction, you know.
And I thought-
Demolition here in one spot, you know, and you never go, you know, it's just before everybody went out, just threw everything in
The thing,
Inside
and I
the
talked to
building,
Sean,
you
he said it's saving a ton of money because they're not filling the cells as quick, so
yeah.
it's actually helped.
The only thing is like. I can't see how they can use these garbage bags, like, you know, like everything has to be bagged, that's the only thing, you know, I mean.
so just on that, Lori's away on holidays, but Sean texted me yesterday, I think, that they finally have their website up and operating, so we'll
Link here, yeah.
yeah, I have,
Yeah, he
but
texted
we
me.
need to get it on our page and, as I said to Sean, that's the biggest challenge is education. Because people are going out there that have their load and their full load, and then they get told, no, we can't accept it this way. Then they're mad. You know, if they know in advance that they have to do this, they might be a little bit frustrated that they have to do that, but at least they haven't loaded it all up, gone out there and then been sent away, so.
I know the guys that did the provincial building, the tiling on the floor, they headed out there with it. No, it can't come here, and then there was quite a kerfuffle about it, but they finally got it figured out.
So we will certainly help promote that website and that link, so people are aware of what, and on the website, they do have I quickly looked at it on my phone, they do have a click down to their operational guidelines, so it is there in terms of what is required, but it's just a matter of getting that word out, so.
Education.
Maybe like, and Sean's super important, like, I mean, he, you know, he makes contact, you know, with everybody, like all committee members, you know, and stuff. But I'm well informed, and Darlene Herzog is very good at
Yeah.
it, you know, she keeps everything informed.
Sandra Moulton.
I attended the Harbor Sky meeting this morning, and we have sort of an announcement. I'm gonna announce on behalf, I think I did get permission. Doravino, the director. She a senior director with HL.
I think she's the
Executive
executive director.
Executive director. With Hannah Learning Center, that they've been working on consolidating the learning center with the volunteer association, and this is their flyer that she handed out of
And
their
they
new
did
name. And speaking of links, that's what their name will be, and Harbor Sky Services and Supports. So that is quite exciting, I guess. And also that Duray has been invited to Ireland to do a presentation and dealing with, I believe it had something to do with the coal-affected
Yeah, yeah.
communities and stuff. So she has been invited to go and do a presentation. And so I'm certain that she will represent Hannah very well and give kudos to all the work that she has done with Learning Center and the Volunteer Association.
So that's fairly soon.
End of the month,
Yeah.
End of
it's the end of
September.
September.
on the end of September,
Okay, I
27th.
knew it was coming soon, so,
because Neil Ray's going with her and informed me she would be able to do payroll, so,
okay.
which is fine.
So I think that's all I have.
Okay, Council Warwick.
As most of you may or may not know, PEP, Palliser Economic Partnerships, our manager, who was Quentin Randall, has resigned from his position there. It was rather quickly and a bit maybe unexpected, but he had another opportunity, a dream job, as he said, so he moved on that, and he gave resignation on August 4th. Didn't really give us the time to put somebody in place. So Lauren Buis, he's filling in for the time being, working with the chair, Doug Jones, at this time. I don't know if I brought this up last time, but we made a couple motions to support a few projects that I'm kind of excited about. The Highway 3 Twinning Association project, we gave them $10,000 to kind of put that in place, and that's that twinning from, and I can't remember the exact name of the location, but somewhere between Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, that highway going back there. They've secured all the land and they're ready to move on that project. So it's pretty exciting for them. That Prairie Windmilling project from Oyen, we also gave them $10,000 to support some infrastructure that they need to put in place. And that is in construction as well, up and going. And the most exciting one, I think, is the Sprague's Meat Shop in Rosemary. It is a $2.5 million project that they're doing, and we were able to give them a $30,000 check with the possibility that they will return 10,000 of that back to PEP. But from what we heard this last meeting, we had a meeting last Friday in Scandia. Never been to Scandia, but I went to Scandia on Friday for a meeting.
Maps got you there.
Got me there, yeah. It's further than I expected, actually. Anyhow, yeah, so we decided too that, there was a need for an avatar facility in this province, because trying to get any kind of slaughtering done is almost near impossible. So those are just a few little things. I will have a written report probably at the next meeting. Also, after that meeting, we went and we toured the hydrogen plant, which is north and west of Scandia. I don't know what the kilometers, we kind of formed a train and followed the lady and we took this, we toured, we were there for over 2 hours touring this plant. The young lady that was there was very well educated. I think she spoke over most of our heads. We kind of asked some meaningful questions, but it was kind of like the plant today. It was kind of intriguing to see exactly how they use hydrogen and all the piping and all the stuff that goes on a hydrogen facility. But It's kind of cool, actually. So
Been busy.
hydrogen is a big thing, so there's lots of talk and everybody's wanting to see what's going on, what it's about. So they created an opportunity for us. So yeah, it was. Yeah. I also participated in the meeting today, but
Yeah.
that sounded like a good. So that's it for me.
Counselor Olson.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add to what's on there.
Is there, do you know, Counselor Olson, just from a personal level, is there any dates of golf course closure yet? that are public?
No, nothing yet. They're aerating now. Should be done aerating. It's so dependent on weather. And all the members always get upset because, you know, in a Calgary course, you can go till it's nice out, and then when you see snow 2 days in the forecast, they can start shutting everything down. By now, Kevin's lost almost all his staff. He's got 12 days' work to get everything done, so he kind of needs to get it scheduled and.
Yeah, I was just curious because I'd had heard earlier in the month, heard different rumors from people that
He wasn't at the
was-
last
it was gonna
meeting,
be
he was
closed
gone.
early, and they didn't have any staff for the clubhouse, so it was gonna be shut down or not open during the day, and
Clubhouse operations have stabilized now. We've got a manager in place
Okay.
with Annie Davies there. Wants to change a few things over winter. And I'm glad she got onto the tail end of the season. We threw her right into the fire. She started 4 days before the men's open, which is the second busiest turn of the year, and she was there to watch it all go down.
Witness the fiasco.
Yeah.
It was a
good.
success.
Yeah, she's
That
excited
tournament,
to be
the
there.
girls that
everything
have
went
been there previous, that tournament was a huge success.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks to you too for your work.
Yeah, that's about it. So I haven't heard a official date. Usually he would
Okay.
have had the last meeting and he would have chosen a target, whether he hits that or not, but
it's usually around the end of September-ish.
yeah, if we can get a week into October, it's gonna be probably a bonus.
Bonus, yeah.
Yeah. If he can see it's gonna be safe for a couple of weeks. So once we start
They'll
flirting.
be watching the forecast like we will for Fox Lake.
He's already started leaving a lot of tee boxes long, just so they don't.
Yeah.
There's much water, everything will die out there even faster than it is now.
So would he close the last 9? Like, would he close a portion of it first and leave maybe the front? or not?
Sometimes they've done that.
Yeah, he'll rearrange it, if they can throw tarps out and then,
Go back to original.
The original 9 versus the new 9.
because even the
If they can extend.
the
it.
holes that have, I guess the new 9 are already 20 years old, maybe that
Close
old.
to that, yeah. 15,
They
17.
still don't handle things as well, so they maybe need tarps sooner or something. And then we'll leave out it.
The
the
locals,
locals-
they're more exposed, certainly a lot more exposed to the weather.
Yeah. And some of those tarps, they're heavy to drag out there. So they take some effort. It's not it's more of a young man's job, and Kevin keeps putting himself through.
Well, but I think when he does the tarps though, too, again, it's kudos to our volunteers. I know.
And the football team,
And they help to, I know he
yeah,
says,
they removed them.
I know he says, we're gonna put tarps on this day and this day, and a lot of our volunteers that are on our maintenance crew as volunteers take that time off, and they're there and they collectively do it, so.
I guess on that note, we're moving forward, hopefully gonna get some start on the shop, even get something started this year. I don't know what level we'll actually get to on it, but we'll get a new maintenance shop for the season next year for sure.
Okay, remind them to fill out a development permit
Of course,
and building permit, Miss Councilor Olson.
absolutely. I will do that.
That's.
Counselor Farrell, you're out of jail for this one. Myself, the chamber still continues to struggle to find direction. We're trying. They're wrestling with the Christmas party as to whether they want to run it or they can push it back from the RCMP or what to do with it. They're feeling very obligated that it is something that the community needs. But last year with COVID and the necessary vaccination, so they had one table sold. So I think this will be the telltale year as to whether we are going ahead with it. Business awards are ongoing, but this will be the year that they decide whether the boss's Christmas party, or maybe Christmas party, whatever you'd like to call it. Makes it or breaks it, so, I know we have reached out to several other, potential organizers and have got very little to no feedback, so.
So, just excuse me,
yeah.
Mr. Mayor, so they are gonna go ahead with it, the chamber is gonna host it then?
Yes,
The
ma'am.
last time I was reading some stuff, I think that's a good idea.
Like I said, it's kind of a make or break year, so.
Well, and I think you can't be dismayed from the last 2 years, those are not.
Well, it's not only the last 2 years,
Oh,
it's been,
Oh,
it's
has
a
it?
lot of work for a few people
Oh, I
and.
see what's
Same.
happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah, so that's that part, the business nominations have been rolling in phenomenally. As CEO Neil indicated, we went over to visit with Delia.
Oh, right.
Again, and, oh, how to describe it? It was an interesting meeting in the fact that they're a very dysfunctional village. Their first question was if they were to take over by Starland County, what would their taxes do? So that was primarily their whole concern. No mention or concern about the level of service or what would happen if the county of Starland took over, but just tax those. And the strange part was, while we were sitting together, 46% less was the estimated tax burden to the people of Delia. I talked to some people that have gone through this up in Dewberry. It's very similar, small community, close to, Lloydminster, so on and so forth. They were kind of promised the same significant tax break, and it's virtually the same. They lost some of their services, but they're looking at doing a
Viability review.
viability review. So basically, Alberta municipalities will come in and do a viability study, and then there's two ways that can be initiated, either by council or by the public via a petition. I believe
Petition,
it's
yeah.
called, yes. So the little town of Delia is in disarray, I guess would be the best word to put it. There's a lack of confidence with the council. And the council is getting very tired of being beat up by the sound of it. They've actually considered resigning lock, stock, and barrel.
So when we were there, and it was the community meeting, and we were there, we were caught a little off, I was caught a little off guard when we walked in and the agenda said the town had to have a presentation. Because we certainly didn't have a presentation, and my message to them was, look, we're neighbors. If there's something that we can work together on that's beneficial to both of us, we're certainly open to it, and we want to, see them be successful. But we weren't there to, I think some people thought Starland County was going to make a presentation and try to convince them to go to Starland County, and the town of Hannah was going to make a presentation. And while they're here, although we can't do that, but we were both very clear, Starland and us, that we would, the preference is for them to survive on their own and have their own identity. Starland's in a little different scenario, being the rural, that if there is a dissolution, they don't really have any choice. They will be managing the village. And like I said, from us, if there's something we can work on that's beneficial, that we can have some benefit from, we're open to discussion. So we'll see what transpires. A prime example is them opening the arena up early, so as an assistance to us. So, we want to work with them. So go ahead, Councilor Thurl.
Oh, are you going to help them get their Zamboni fixed? That's what I heard. Their Zamboni is in need of repair.
Okay, I haven't heard that. So.
I heard that from some of the members of the Ag Society or whatever that.
Maybe with the money.
Well, worst case scenario, ours goes over there.
Yeah. And they said it needed repair. I said, well.
Yeah. No, I hadn't heard that yet, so.
maybe with some of the money they might be getting from having it open earlier, maybe.
Well,
I wish that, or I hope they would have brought that up if it was a serious
Yeah.
concern.
I don't think they're gonna have
A whole lot
a ton of
money.
excess money. They
No.
basically indicated they needed $9,000 to rent to make it viable for them to open. So that's kind of break even for them, so. Yeah, Kevin was on holidays. I think I haven't had a chance to talk to him, but I know he was gonna be following up with Jason Reed. And I know he's planning on, I think, having an ice users meeting tomorrow night, so.
Yeah, they have a council meeting tonight.
So I don't know.
And then Thursday, I have a meeting with the Red Deer Municipal Water Users Group in Heller to kind of get up to speed as to what they're doing with Council County is passing, so that'll be interesting
Were you invited
to the next
to the executive committee as well?
Yes.
Okay, because he was a member of the executive
Yeah.
committee as well, so.
Okay, that being said, it is that time of the year again to reassign or shuffle or designate postings on boards. I'm going to do the same thing as we did last time. I will ask you to give me your top 3 priorities. I'll ask C. O'Neill to send out a list of the boards and positions that we need to fill. And get them back to us as soon as you can. And we will see what we can do about accommodating your requests. And not promising anybody anything, but we will, we'll try. How's that sound? Okay.
So why is this up at this time of the year?
Every year.
Annually,
Annual.
Counselor Kroll, we have to have an organizational meeting. So every year we go through this, again, it's the, prerogative of mayor and council. I know under Mayor Warwick, a lot of the people who served on a committee for the full 4 years. But it is part of the process that we have to have an organizational meeting annually. All municipalities do, and we have to appoint members. So there may be some changes, there may be status quo. That'll be, up to the mayor to look at and what type of requests that he gets from council, if people want to change or don't change. There's pros and cons for both. There's definitely pros for continuity and, being appointed and having a year under your belt with a committee and be getting involved. And there's also pros on learning what other committees and boards do as well. So it is an annual thing that we have to do in October every year. So.
Actually, can I just, will we have an opportunity to kind of talk about it? Because to me, there would be some reasons why, for me, for example, I've read why I might want to change, but there would be some really strategic reasons why I wouldn't want to change. With some of the, and we could have some conversation about what that may look like and why I would want to stay on the one committee that I am, or why I might want to change. Will we discuss that at all? Or are we just gonna at random just decide who's gonna?
Well, it won't be random. The mayor will bring forth the recommendation on who's appointed. Ultimately, council ratifies that recommendation. I guess if you want to have that discussion, and I'll leave it open to you, we do have a council info meeting. I think it's the 28th of September. That could be a meeting that's in place. That could be added to the agenda if you wanted to have that discussion. Sometimes I don't know if it's good or bad to have that open dialogue. You may create friction animosity amongst yourselves too, because if 3 counselors or 4 counselors all want this position and only 1 or 2 of them can have it, you know, whether that does ultimately, it's the mayor's call in terms of how he would like to. And I think if you wanna, and I shouldn't speak for the mayor,
No,
but
it's,
he's open, and if you wanna have a conversation with him versus texting him why you want certain positions, you could have a conversation with him and say, I'd like this, this, and this, and these are my reasons why, and he'll take that into consideration, but it is a tough thing because, you know, there's 6 people that we're trying to give appointments to, and majority of them might want 4 or 5 positions. So you're not always gonna get, you know, the ones that you want, and it's a fine balance trying to find you some that may fit, and sometimes there might be some knowledge reasons why you might be a better fit on one committee than another, based on your background, based on your history, etc. So
basically right now, kind of in my head, unless you have, you're overloaded or underloaded, I don't, in my mind, see changing a whole bunch. Unless you know what I mean, obviously, we've got a couple positions to fill. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now in my head, but I mean, I'm very open to listen to ideas and stuff, so. Councilwoman.
Well, and I guess that's my comment, is that if a person finds that they're overloaded.
Yep.
With their present workload and their committees and things of that nature, then that gives them the option to maybe step back.
Yeah,
or-
That's what I'm
and-
hoping for.
Yeah, and some that are underloaded.
Yeah.
Might want to do more and. have
That's
that-
kind of what I'm
yeah.
hoping for. I'm not looking to blow it all up and change everything just for the sake of changing it. I'm kind of hoping that we can maybe allocate a little bit better than, I thought we did pretty good considering it was the first kick in the can, but like I said, if we've given you too much or not enough, then maybe we can. And the other side is there's only so much to give,
Yeah.
so.
and we also have to look at, and I know Mayor Pavlicek had some conversations with some of the boards and committees, you know, and I'm gonna pick on Councillor Olson. He's the chair of Palliser Regional Municipal Services. Again, a very new board, if not all new, all but one, maybe. So, you know, it would probably be a strategic move on Mayor Pavlicek's unless Mr. Olson vehemently wants off to place him there because he's got a year of chair under his belt and to throw somebody new
Oh,
into
just
it.
for, yeah.
You're either gonna be the chair or the vice chair of that organization. There's no just stepping in, you're totally in, so. But situations like that will have to be factored into the decision as well,
Yep.
so.
So just some food for thought. Correspondence.
The only thing, Mr. Mayor, pardon me, did we miss something?
Yeah, we need to move that.
Oh, sorry. Motion to.
Accept correspondence.
accept correspondence.
No.
No,
No.
we're-
We're in great position.
Okay,
I can do that.
Council Bowden, all in favor? Carried. Thanks, Naomi. Council accept correspondence items 12.01 to 12.10 for information.
the only thing in there, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Olson's
Olson
question.
made motion.
Oh, you're making a motion, okay.
Yeah.
The letter from Mr. Smith, on the road dust concern we talked about, so we are going to, see what some millings will do there to help alleviate the problem. The rest, I think, is pretty standard, correspondence. I don't think there's anything there. The town of Waukee, just, I'll pass these around, so they did send 3 comic books. I don't even call them comic books, they look like comic books.
They're very interesting.
Did you read it?
I did.
Okay,
I did, me and my right-hand man that was here today went through it, and
okay.
it's interesting.
So there are a couple books you can certainly take a look at. I was going to take them to the library and see what the library would do with them.
Japanese.
But that came with their letter that they sent us, so
Oh, that's
there, it
great.
is in English, so.
Oh.
He said it was all Greek to him. I said, no, it's Japanese.
Just one thing with the Ron Smith, he has come to me and talked to me about it. And as I indicated to him that he bought the lot with a gravel road beside it and so on and so forth. And he kind of, when I explained it to him that fashion, he still wasn't super happy with the answer, but that's, and when I indicated his taxes might go up, are we doing improvements? And all of a sudden he was, oh. So, but yeah, I have talked to him, so I'm one of the many that he has talked to, so.
Yeah, I've never heard it. About a concern.
And I've only heard it, I believe, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe he's come in and talked to me. I've only heard it through you, so.
I have a comment regarding the Tofield letter, the victim services redesign concerns. Which I find very interesting that, you know, if it's gonna delay, I know the sergeant. When he was in, had made comments about it being looked after by the RCM. No, looked after by the solicitor.
Yeah.
The Justice and Solicitor General, could take years in order for it to get addressed. So I'm kind of in support of what the mayor of Tofield has indicated in their letter, and might like to see some action, expressing a concern that I don't think there was any communication with the areas, that there was some discussion about changing victim services. I think there was an issue about victim services all along, but
The only thing I can add, Councilor Bowden, so you do have that letter, but you also do have the response letter from
Yeah.
Minister Shandro.
Right.
The other thing I think council's aware of too is that there was a steering committee that was developed, and we were fortunate to have local resident staff person on that steering committee, so. I haven't talked to Michelle much recently about where it's at, but it's certainly I can ask her to provide whatever update. I know initially when she was on, she was sworn to confidence, had a non-disclosure agreement, so she couldn't talk about it. But I think that's off now, and she's still involved, so.
it would be nice to hear maybe an update
Sure. Yeah.
or some information as to where it's headed,
Yeah.
and when actually implementation or availability might be in the wind. Just that there are situations that are, you know, people in crisis and stuff, and if nothing is being done.
Yeah.
Thank you, that would be,
Yeah, no, she certainly has much more expertise than I do on that, so.
thank you.
The thing with the policing that kind of, and I've done a little more research all the time. It is a direction almost of the federal government to get rid of the RCMP. Like, I mean, it's not the Alberta government solely taking the bull by the horns and gonna get rid of the RCMP. It seemed to be, the way I interpreted it, it seemed to be like a push from the federal government almost to get out of policing, so. Again, just my,
I believe at the conference next week.
oh, it'll be hot and heavy.
There will be a lot of discussion, a lot of resolutions, a lot of stuff about policing, so I'm sure you'll get some additional information next week on. And in discussions with other municipalities, what their thoughts are, you know, we haven't taken a position. I know I got an email from the National Police Federation yesterday, you know, basically sent out to say, well, anybody want to join our call to action? We're still open. You can join our call to action, but I think this group already taken a position, maybe after AM has taken a position, RMA has taken a position. I think at the end of the day, if following the conference next week, if it's something that council feels strongly about, that they want to take a position one way or the other, we can certainly bring that up, so.
I don't think formally, but I think there was some mention that, you know, those of us that did attend some of those presentations, RCMP and
Yeah.
the government, province, that I think there was some support for RCMP.
Yeah, but as a group, we haven't
No,
taken
not
that
as a group,
position to
yeah.
be able to put the town of Hannah
Stamp
on,
on it.
Right.
on these stamps, on these, National Police Federation, so.
Hey. All in favor of the correspondence for information? Carried. Motion move into camera at 8:15.